Hello, good morning everybody. My name is Alvaro Vives, working for RIPE NCC in the Training Service Department. Good to see, as Matt mentioned, many known faces from these 3 days we have been here in the city giving training courses. I'm going to give more details about RIPE Atlas. I will do a short introduction on what it is, and then I will give you some news that recently happened, so a little bit of an update on the RIPE Atlas. First, I would like to explain what this RIPE Atlas is, what is the main goals we have with this tool. We wanted it to be able to measure the whole internet, so it is spread all over the internet, but focus on the internet infrastructure. It's not going to measure any service or anything you may think of, but it's more about the measuring the IP addresses, reachability, delays, and DNS root server, for example. So it's more in the infrastructure part of the internet. Also, you can get real-time information, measurements that are happening right now, but also all the data will be stored in our servers, so you can travel back in time and read past measurements, so see what happened or what changed during the time. Matt already mentioned the measurements are active, so it's not listening into traffic or anything like that. It's just initiating measurement that the user define. So it actively makes the measurements, sending packets to measure. It's just a few measurements you will see in a minute. Also, this tool is created by RIPE NCC. We support it. We coordinate all the efforts, but it's mainly a collaborative effort. We have many people helping us. We have a big community. We have a lot of hosts, people that put these devices that made the RIPE Atlas possible in their networks. That's why, for example, I'm talking here, asking for your collaboration and explaining how to contribute to this really nice tool, in my opinion. It's open and free. You don't have to pay anything to use it. Anybody is invited to collaborate, to help us, making it even better. And of course, it's a dual stack. It's capable of doing measurements over IPv4 and IPv6. So it's a really useful tool to measure your brand new IPv6 deployment that I hope you already have made. The elements that compose the RIPE Atlas system are the probes. These are small devices we have developed in-house, and we are giving them. We have more than 10,200 of them. I brought 5 or 6, and you can ask me in the break. I can handle to you if you're interested in collaborating here. They are distributed all over the world. This is one of the nice things we have. We have probes in many different networks, in many different AS numbers, in many different countries. So can be used to generate measurement from all these probes. And I think this is the interesting part of RIPE Atlas. It's not to generate measurements from your own network. It's not useful to have a probe in your own network. You have access to your network. You can ping from any device in your own network. What's difficult to do many times is to find a device in somebody else's network and generate a ping or a trace route or a measurement from that specific network. And that's what you get from RIPE Atlas. You can ask a device in somebody else's network to do measurements for you, right? So that's the nice part of it. We also have RIPE Atlas anchors. That is a kind of probe on steroids. Is a bigger requirements, a little bit more of bandwidth, and stable, and being in a rack in a data center, and having stable IPv4 and IPv6 addresses. And they generate much more measurements and even some local measurements around the anchor. The number is also increasing a lot, and it's going to increase, it's still increasing, and more are coming, and we have them distributed also all around the world. So if you want to collaborate even more than just hosting 1 or 2 probes, you can collaborate hosting an anchor. Also, the interfaces to access the system. We have a really user-friendly one, that is the web interface, where you can log in with your RIPE NCC Access account. As we mentioned before, this is something anybody can make, just having an email. You can create your RIPE NCC Access account. And there you can generate new measurements, you can manage your probes and anchors, and also the credits. I will explain also that you need some credits to create measurements, but they are not difficult to get. I will tell you in a minute different ways of getting credits. But of course, we also have other interfaces you can use. We have the API and streaming. The API will allow you to use some software or tools to access the system, to create new measurements or get the results. Also, the streaming is a way of just in one direction, get the results of measurements that are running alive. So you can integrate that into any monitoring tool you may have. Also, of course, we have a CLI. We have a command line tool you can use to generate any kind of measurements or also gather results to make things sometimes straightforward. And the Write-Padless community is what really built the whole thing. We need collaboration from a lot of people all around the world. We have the users, people that just create measurements. You can see the number is also growing a lot. In the last years, we have over 40,000 users creating measurements. Of course, the hosts, people that voluntarily host a probe or an anchor in their network. They make it possible, and we try to reach as many countries and ASs as possible. We have reached a number of probes that is 10,000. There was like an aim at the beginning of the project, and now we are trying to improve the quality, trying to put probes in new ASs, in new countries, so we make it even better to generate measurements from different places. We have sponsors. We have people that give us money, and we use that money to buy new probes and distribute them. So they also help this whole system to improve and have more probes all over the world. And we have ambassadors. This is a figure of a person that is traveling all over the world, going to different meetings, speaking and talking, presenting about Write-Padless, and also handling probes to people that are interested in helping us. The measurements we have, remember, we are trying to target the internet infrastructure, so they are simple measurements like ping, traceroute. We can also measure DNS resolution or NTP, also SSL and TLS certificate retrieval, and also HTTP. But HTTP is limited towards the anchors. It's not that you can measure HTTP towards your website, because that will generate big packets, will generate thousands of bytes, and we don't want the system to overload networks. We want them to generate as less traffic as possible. So this is a decision made by design. So to have an idea how the whole system is, you can think on Write-Padless of being a system that is composed from one control server, and also we have a data repository where all the measurements, all the data is kept. We manage these servers, and then we have all the anchors and probes that our hosts are helping us to have. And then in the other side, we have the users, and the user accesses the system using any of the interfaces I mentioned before. They can use the web interface, the API, the CLI, and also the streaming. So you can see, and this is one of the first concerns I have seen in people when they put these devices in their network, is they are worried. I'm putting something in my network, what's going to happen? Who's going to access these devices? So the idea is that only the controllers are going to communicate with the probes. They are even creating a tunnel from the device towards the controller, and then they get the orders and send the measurements back. So nobody is going to connect to your probe. You can even put firewall rules that avoid that to happen, but they are not listening at any port, not trying to receive any connection. So the user creates measurements on the system, and then the system sends the order to the probes and anchors. Yeah. Well, I have the same example as Matt, so I will repeat it. Repetition is good for learning. We have a server, some service somewhere in the world, and they are Write-Padless user, and they want to, and this is something that happened in the past. They were a big provider that has some customers complaining. There are big delays accessing a website, and they were trying to figure out what was happening. So they started to run measurements from a control group of probes, and then probes in different parts of the country to figure out where the problem is. So what they can do is to connect to using the web interface, for example, and create a measurement in the Write-Padless servers. At some point, the probes will connect towards using SSH toward our servers. will receive the orders, will generate the measurements, and gather the results. These results will be sent back to our servers, where the user can see graphically, as we'll show in a minute, all the results and what's happening, and troubleshoot and find where the problem is. Yeah. Also, security aspects, as I mentioned, people are concerned about, hey, I'm adding this device to my network, to my data center. Is it secure? Well, so far, we have just few small incidents because by design, we try to make as safe as possible. For example, all the server addresses towards which the devices connect, and also the keys used to secure the SSH and all the encryption we have are put on the hardware on the device. So it's not that easy to tamper it or find what's the addresses or change that numbers in the devices. Also, no open ports, no listening for any connection, and the devices start the connection toward the control servers. So that's also make it possible to work properly behind the NAT, having a private address. So it's easy just to plug and play, and the thing will start to work. Also, of course, no passive measurements, no listening to local traffic. It's active measurements generated from the probes towards the target we configure in our measurement. And all the firmware is updated automatically, so assume there is a new version, something to fix, a patch, or anything is quite dynamically updated. So when the device connects to the system, it receives the new firmware and is updated. So there is low chances to actively be running an updated or any kind of problematic firmware. As I mentioned, the probes will start a reverse SSH tunnel to the control servers, and we receive the orders to of the measurements they have to run. Also, the source code of the measurement software is publicly available. You can look at it. You can even contribute. It's all a collaborative effort, so software developers are also invited to join the RIPE-Atlas community and help us improving or adding new features to the system. The measurements cost credits. This is how we try to give some fairness to the system, so people can abuse or by mistake keep measurements running and overloaded the system even by mistake. So how can you earn credits? The main idea is that the more you help us, the more credits you get. So if you host the probe, you will get credits for the measurements that the probe are running. There are built-in measurements, so from minute one, you will start receiving credits for those measurements. And also, when a user creates a measurement using your probe, you will get credits for those measurements. An anchor host will get even more credits because they are providing more to the system. They are providing more measurements, so we'll get more credits. All the RIPE NCC members, the LARs, are also can get credits every month. They can get an amount of credits, and they can use for their own measurements. And then you can be a sponsor. You can also transfer credits between different accounts. So somebody that you know have a lot of credits, they can transfer to you, or between people within your organization. You can even share the credits between people within the same LAR. Also, the ambassadors get credits, and sometimes we also give vouchers. For example, in the course we did yesterday, we gave some vouchers to our participants. So there are many ways.
Post your anchor for 5 years. Do we add all the years, or we lose credits at the end of the year?
What do you mean? You have an anchor?
Because your anchor for 5 years. Do we have 5 million credits now?
Well, you have been getting credits all over the time. You get for the measurements they are running. Yeah, there's no longevity prizes.
Oh.
Or as far as I know, you can suggest that, and my colleagues maybe add that. Yeah, that would be nice.
Just the question is, do credits expire, or are they just earned and?
Yeah, the question, the credits don't expire. As far as I know, they will be there forever. I don't know. Yeah, don't expire, but use them. Also, if you are, for example, this is a system that is being used by many researchers, and people in universities, PhDs, candidates. So in that case, we can collaborate with you. You can ask for a special number of credits for a measurement you need to run. So that's also something you can contact us, and we can work together and give you all the, to satisfy your needs for some specific research you are doing of the internet. To create a measurement, we try to make it as easy as possible. Using the web interface is just a 3-step process. First, you have to decide which measurement you want to use. Remember, you have, for example, ping, traceroute. Depending on which measurement you choose, you have to specify some parameters. You can just put the basic one as the target, but you can also specify the number of packet, the size of packet, IPv4 and IPv6. You can go even to small details. And these details will depend on the measurement you are trying to run. The second step is to choose the probes you want to use. You can ask to get some random number worldwide, or you can be more specific using, for example, our wizard, where you can choose a region, geographical region from where you get the probes, or you can select based on the region, country, AS number, even network prefix, a number of probes. You can also filter them using tags. The probes has tags, so you can choose stable or IPv4 capable, IPv6 capable tags, probes. And also the timing. You can select a one-off measurement just to see what happens right now, or you can create an ongoing measurement that will be running from the 2 dates and times you establish in the system. Depending also in the measurement you run, you will have different results, but you can get the raw results, but also you can visually see them in different types and forms. You can see a map, you can see different results from each probe, or how the measurement has been running over time as well. So I will suggest that if you didn't try it yet, it's an easy-to-use system. You have any question, I will give some contact information at the end. Yep, and also remember, I have some probes to hand out during the break. And last but not least, I have some news to share with you, some interesting ones. We have gone virtual, so this is a big change on the system. Up to now, we only had hardware devices, and we have started with the anchors. Now, the process is the same, the prerequisites are the same, the requirements, and even the credits you get in return of hosting an anchor are the same, but now you can host virtual anchors. So when you go to the process of requesting an anchor, you can choose if you want a hardware or a virtual anchor. Yep, it's going to be as easy as creating a virtual machine somewhere, and then you will receive instructions on how to install the Linux system and the software and start to run the whole thing. So this is new. Also, we are working towards virtual probes as well, because before going virtual with the anchors, there were a pilot and a lot of community feedback to see how things are, and then the choice was made and we move ahead. Also, we are working into the virtual probes. That's going to be also a pilot and some ongoing work to see how it goes, what are the consequences, and how we have to manage the possibly a lot of new probes. And I think half of the next year, mid of next year, there will be some announcements and some results on that pilot. So stay tuned on that. Also, we are working in a new measurement detail pages. This is how it looks right now. You don't see it much, but well, there's some layout, and we are moving towards a more informative one, where you have more details, more explanation on what things are. If you click on each one of these options, you will see detailed information in a more easy, yep.
Is
Wait.
target strictly IP address?
Sorry, target? Oh, the target,
Is the target strictly IP address, or it can be name?
could be both. Could be an address or can be a domain name.
And which resolver then you use?
You can choose if you want the resolver to be in the probe or the anchor, or that RIPE NCC does the resolution for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If you are interested on looking at this, because we want feedback from the people on this to improve or change things, if you access any measurement, you will have the URL that is like the one you have on the left with the number. Just add manually canary word on the right, and then you will see the same measurement with the new layout. And please send feedback to us. We are expecting people to help us improve and see if something is missing, something is not clear. So please help us improving this new layout. And last but not least, something that has been also recently added is tags for measurements. You can add tag to the measurement you create. That way you can then afterwards combine measurements to create results. Because one thing you need to know is that the measurements are really basic. You know, you get pings results, trace route results, but then there are really cool tools that are being developed on top of those raw data. So if you can afterwards merge or combine measurements based on the tags you have created, added, that could be really useful for yourself as well. So this is the contact information. You can see much more information on our website. You can see the roadmap, what we are working on. And we have different emails and Twitter accounts you can follow if you are interested in the tool. So I don't know if there are any more questions. No? Okay. Thank you.